Ain't this what they've been waiting for? You ready? Uh, uh. I used to pray for times like this, to rhyme like this, so I had to grind like that, to shine like this. In a matter of time I spent on some locked up in the back of the paddy wagon, cuffs locked on wrist. See my dreams unfold, nightmares come true. It was time to marry the game, and I said, yeah, I do. If you want it, you gotta see it with a clear eye view. Got shorty, she try and bless me like I said I do, like a sneeze. Please for them trick squeeze, I'm getting cream. Never let them get in between where we started. Look, but I'm lying hearted. They love me when I was stuck and they hated when I departed. I go and get it regardless. Draw it like I'm an artist. But crawling went straight to walking with forests in my garages. A foreign menage. Cause sucking and swallowing anything.
It's the build up right here.
They tell me get it, got it. I did it without an album.
We get into that part. We get into that moment.
Look, I'm on fire. Icy as a hockey ring, Philly flyer. When I bought the Rolls Royce, they thought it was leased. Then I bought that new Ferrari. Hater, rest in peace. Hater, rest in peace. Rest in peace to the parking lot. Phantom so big, can't even fit in the parking spot. You ain't talking about my then what you talking about? Gangsters moving silent, and I don't talk a lot. I don't say a word. I don't say a word. Was on my grind and now I got what I deserve. Hold on, wait a minute. Y'all thought I was finished? When I bought the ass the money, I thought it was rented. Flexing on these, some like Papa on this video.
Yeah, what's going on? What's going on? Hey, how everybody doing this day? How is everybody doing? I hope everybody's having a beautiful and blessed one. Just an amazing day. Man, week 9. Man, we had an amazing week of football, amazing Sunday of football. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. This is the breakdown, X's and O's with Nate Ness. I'm your host, Nate Ness, and man, such an exciting and amazing week. So let's go ahead. We kick off week 9 with a trip to the Superdome. Yes, where the Saints host the Atlanta Falcons. Now, Matt Ryan and the Falcons coming to town 4-4 and looking to keep their hopes alive for playing in January. You know, making it to the postseason. And Matt was very efficient and very comfortable. He's playing very well. You know what? Since the beginning of the season, he's had his ups and downs, but he's been consistent as of late. 23 for 30 for 343 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, as well as a rushing touchdown. Yeah, Matt Ryan had a rushing touchdown as well. So he accounted for 3 touchdowns on the day. Man, but if I had to give a midseason MVP award to this Atlanta Falcons team, oh man, it would go to Cordell Patterson. Man, he's continued his excellent play, and he's done it in a plethora of ways: rushing the ball, receiving, and also returning kicks. But yesterday he did it, receiving the ball. He had 6 receptions for 126 yards, and just played extremely well. Alameda Zacchaeus had 2 reception touchdowns. But the Saints, we never take anything away from them. They're playing with a new quarterback, Trevor Siemian, who was filling in for Jameis Winston. As you know, Jameis Winston was lost for the season when he tore his ACL last week. And I can't really say anything negative about Trevor Siemian. He came in, he competed, and he played pretty well. 25 for 41 for 249 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had a lost fumble, but other than that, he was really solid. He had a solid showing. Now, I believe with the loss of Jameis Winston, you're going to see a lot more of Alvin Kamara. And I just got this feeling that he's going to be a big emphasis of getting him the ball and just really riding him. He had a decent game, 13 carries for 50 yards and 1 touchdown. And both Kenny Stills and Marquez Callaway, they both had receiving touchdowns. And the Falcons were able to hold on to, and win a close game, an important NFC South Division game. And most importantly, they are a game above 500, 27-25. All right, our next stop to AT&T Stadium. The Dallas Cowboys host the Denver Broncos. Now, this Cowboys team has been playing at a championship level, since week 1. You know what? Defensively, they've looked amazing. They've played like a completely different team. They have they just looking really good defensively. Offensively, they're getting things going. They have a lot of weapons on offense, and Dallas is playing very well, playing lights out, to be honest with you. Now, the Broncos came into this game, up and down. Up and down season, but Teddy Bridgewater was decent, 19 for 28 for 249 yards and 1 touchdown. It was a mistake-free game for Teddy, and he managed the game pretty well. The Broncos, though, they got a huge boost. They got a huge boost. Now, we cannot, discredit this from the running game. And they was able to establish their run. They established the run early and just really get to their initial game plan. Not trying to, put too much on Teddy Bridgewater's shoulders and on his play, but, establishing your run. And the run was actually led by, Javonte Williams. He led the way with 17 carries for 111 yards. And Melvin Gordon, he had 21 carries for 80 yards and a touchdown. Now, on the receiving end, Tim Patrick had a solid day receiving, 4 receptions for 85 yards and 1 touchdown. And the Cowboys, you know what? They got their quarterback back. They got starting quarterback Dak Prescott back, who missed the last game with a strained calf. But from the get-go, Dallas was playing catch-up the whole game. Now, Dak in his first game back, he was decent. 19 for 32 for 232 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Quiet game from Zeke. Wasn't able to really get the running game or get that established or focus on that because, again, they started off in the hole 16-0. But he finished the game with 10 carries for 51 yards. Malik Turner had 2 receptions. But it was also a hugely and surprisingly quiet game from both CeeDee Lamb, who had 2 receptions and 23 yards, and Amari Cooper, who had 2 receptions for 37 yards. Now, again, quiet games from these two guys when they're capable of just going off for 100 apiece. So that was really weird. Denver was able to, to knock off the Cowboys in some type of way, as far as with their offensive game plan and whatnot, not allowing their stars to really get off. But again, this is the first game in the season where the Cowboys actually didn't even force a turnover on the defensive side, breaking the streak they had. And Denver was able to ride a great running game and to a big victory, 30-16. All right, next stop, to Bank of America Stadium, where the Panthers hosted the New England Patriots. Now, again, as I've said before, this New England Patriots team with the rookie quarterback Mac Jones under him, we're going to see a lot of the old school Patriots. And when I say the old school Patriots, the first 3, the first 3 championship, Super Bowl Patriots, where they won games with a great defense, solid quarterback play, quarterback managing, and just really overall team effort. And you know what? It was a balanced team attack, no different than today. Now, Mac Jones, he was okay. He managed the game pretty well. 12 of 18 for 139 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. But the thing about Bill Belichick is that with the rookie quarterback, he wants to be able to run the football. He wants to be able to run the football and control the clock. And collectively, the Patriots got 144 yards and 1 touchdown from the stable of running backs that they have. Ramondre Stevenson led the way with 10 carries for 62 yards. Brandon Bolden had 8 for 54 yards, and Damian Harris had 15 for 30 yards and 1 touchdown. Hunter Henry had the long reception touchdown for the Patriots. And the Panthers on the other side, it was just a horrible day for them. Just to not even to sugarcoat it, it was a horrible day. Sam Darnold, he's been very inconsistent. Very inconsistent from the beginning of the season. And you would have thought with the Panthers getting back Christian McCaffrey, it would help him out. But he struggled, and he struggled big time. 16 for 33 for 172 yards and 3 interceptions. Now, this was C-Mac's first game back, from injuring his hamstring. You can tell he's got to get his rhythm. He's got to get his football feel and back. You got to get his football legs back. And he had some okay production, but Bill wasn't going to allow Christian McCaffrey to be a factor in the game. But he did finish the game with 14 carries for 52 yards and 4 receptions for 54 yards. Now, during this stretch, I've questioned numerous times this stretch that the Panthers had, of just a rough stretch. Where's DJ Moore been? DJ Moore has had, some quiet games as of late. Starting the season off really, really hot and then has fizzled out. He wants to be the number 1 wide receiver, but he's had to find a way to really put the numbers up, to make plays, to win his one-on-one matchups, and he has the ability to do that, but he has to be consistent in doing that. So come on, DJ, you gotta, get to it. I don't know if it's extra work on the field or extra film time, man, but get to it, because you know what, hey, don't allow this opportunity to slip past you. But this game in itself was a Bill Belichick type of game, rushing the ball and a great defensive game plan. And the Patriots defense forced 3 turnovers. 3 interceptions, 2 by J.C. Jackson and 1 by Jamie Collins. And the Patriots, they just really are getting to it. They've won 4 of the last 5 games, and they stand a playoff hunt especially with this victory, 24-6 over the Panthers. All right, don't laugh at me, folks. Don't laugh at me. But we're gonna go ahead to M&T Bank Stadium. You know, big trust. Where the Ravens host the Minnesota Vikings. And this is another game where the Vikings were close and played a decent game, but couldn't close the door. Kirk Cousins was okay, 17 for 28 for 187 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Dalvin Cook had a big game, 17 carries for 110 yards. Justin Jefferson, 3 receptions for 69 yards and 1 touchdown. And Adam Thielen had 1 reception touchdown as well. I mean, the Vikings, they had everything going for them. They even scored on special teams and held on to a 14-point lead. But the one thing I can tell you about these Ravens, now these Ravens have been a team of resiliency. They battled, and battled. And it wasn't Lamar's best game, but he just makes plays and the team rallies around him and to get a much needed victories. Now, Lamar finished the game 27 for 41 for 266 yards, 3 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. And collectively, the Ravens dominated on the ground, getting 247 yards and 1 touchdown as a team. Lamar Jackson led the way with 21 carries for 120 yards. Devontae Freeman was 13 carries for 79 yards. And Le'Veon Bell, 11 carries for 48 yards and 1 touchdown. I mean, we're going to get to the, let's get to the gist of it. If the Baltimore Ravens can actually run and produce like this on the ground, I mean, they're going to be a team that's going to be hard to beat. You know, they're going to be a team that's going to be able to control and dictate the game and just really control the clock, and they're going to be hard to beat. Marquise Brown had a big game, 9 receptions for 116 yards. And Patrick Ricard and Devin Duvernay, they both had reception touchdowns. In a bizarre game where the Vikings got 2 turnovers with 2 interceptions, they scored on special teams, and they just played a decent game on defense. They wind up losing 34-31 to the Baltimore Ravens in overtime. Man, I tell you, you never know what you're going to get on any given Sunday. All right, next stop to Paul Brown Stadium, where we have the AFC North Division matchup, a big game, Cleveland Browns and the Cincinnati Bengals. And this game was straight up one team dominating the other one. And when I say that, I mean the Browns were the team dominating. Baker Mayfield, you know what? He played his part, you know, managing the game and was okay. 14-21 for 218 yards and 2 touchdowns. No mistakes, you know what? And did what was asked of him, nothing more. But the Browns got back to what they're great at, and that's the ground and pound. With Nick Chubb leading the way with 14 carries for 137 yards and 2 touchdowns. He was just unstoppable, to be completely honest with you guys. You know what? Averaging more than 9 yards a carry. Donovan Peoples-Jones had 2 receptions for 86 yards and 1 touchdown, and David Njoku also had a receiving touchdown. Now, the Browns defense, on the other hand, put up a dominant performance. You know, forcing 3 turnovers, 2 interceptions, 1 was a return for a touchdown, and a fumble recovery, and recorded 5 sacks. Now, the Bengals had a rough day, and for the second consecutive week, Joe Burrow was off big time. You know, he was harassed in the pocket the whole game, 28 for 40, 282 yards, and 2 interceptions. Now, Joe Mixon had a decent day on the ground, 13 carries for 64 yards and 2 touchdowns. But relatively quiet games from T. Higgins, who had 6 receptions for 78 yards, and Jamar Chase, 6 receptions for 49 yards. But the thing was the turnovers. That's the thing was the turnovers and finding no rhythm offensively contributed to the Bengals losing to the Browns 41-16. That AFC North, that's a division right there. That's a competitive division. All right. Now we're going to go to TIAA Bank Field. This is the most twilight game of the day. You know, you have the Buffalo Bills traveling to take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I hope y'all not getting, tired of me sound like, a broken record. But anything can happen on any given Sunday. And this game was proof again of that. The Buffalo Bills, who have goals of a Super Bowl berth, and they have all of the talent. They have a franchise quarterback, an MVP candidate, and Josh Allen, but he looked really, really bad yesterday. 31 for 47 for 264 yards and 2 interceptions. Now, this Bills team, honestly, they couldn't do nothing to get going. They couldn't. They had stalled on offense so many times. They couldn't get going nothing. Stephon Diggs had 6 receptions for 85 yards. But the Jaguars, for some odd reason, man, you got to respect this team. They may not be as good, as the Bills or a lot of teams, but you have to respect this team. Trevor Lawrence wasn't pretty, 15 for 26 for 118 yards before he left the game with an ankle injury. Carlos Hyde, 21 carries for 67 yards, and it wasn't really a big factor in the game. This game was about defense, and the Jaguar defense stepped up in a big way to shut down one of the league's best offenses and one of the league's best quarterbacks. Jaguars offensive outside linebacker Josh Allen, yes, I say that, Josh Allen, who's, he shares the same name as Bills quarterback. You know what? He had a great game. You know, he did something and that has never been done in NFL history. You know, to sack and intercept another player that he shares the same name with. But this game was about the defense and the Jaguars, showing up in a big way, and they get a shocking win in a low-scoring game, 9-6. All right. Okay, we're heading to the Hard Rock Stadium, where those Dolphins host the struggling, with Houston Texans. Now, the Texans welcome back starting quarterback Tyrod Taylor, and he had a really rough welcome back game. 24 for 43 for 240 yards and 3 interceptions. The Texans are still struggling to find a playmaker on the offensive side of the ball. They got to find somebody that can actually, they can trust and depend to make a play, to win a one-on-one battle, to just really be that guy. Brandon Cooks had a quiet game, 6 receptions for 56 yards. And the Dolphins started Jacoby Brissett in place of injured Tua Tagovailoa, who was dealing with a fractured finger and rib injuries. And Jacoby was okay. He was okay. 26 for 43 for 244 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. And although the Dolphins still haven't found a running back that they can depend on, Myles Gaskins did have a rushing touchdown. Rookie Jalen Waddle led the way, receiving 8 receptions for 83 yards. And in a sloppy turnover-ridden game, this was a sloppy game. 4 turnovers committed by the Houston Texans, 5 by the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins end a tough sled that they've had. They've been on a really, really rough, a path right now. They win a game 17-9, and they needed this win. All right. Now, before I say anything about this game, I want to take this time to really show, send prayers and love to the family members of the young lady that was lost in the crash with Henry Ruggs. It's very devastating. It's very sad, the loss of life. It was a mistake, and I'm praying for Henry Ruggs, because right now he doesn't need us. And me personally, I can't throw no stones at him. I'm a man that makes mistakes on a daily. He made a mistake, just lack of, not good judgment there. But, praying for just the family, both families going forward. And it's time for athletes. We gotta make smarter decisions, man. We gotta, not just athletes, people in general. We gotta make, smarter decisions, more mature decisions. You know what? Hey, drinking and driving under the influence of anything, whether it's alcohol or any controlled substance, we cannot put ourselves and put our families in any position where it's going to affect it negatively and hurt people. So, again, I'm sending my prayers out to the victim, and I'm sending my prayers out to Henry Ruggs and his family. So, all right. Las Vegas Raiders travel to MetLife to take on the New York Giants. Now, Derek Carr didn't have a pretty game, a pretty day rather, but he finished the game 30 for 46, 296 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, and he lost a fumble. Josh Jacobs kind of got going a little bit in the running game, 13 carries for 76 yards, had some pretty decent runs in between the tackles, a tough runner. Darren Waller was the leading man receiving with 7 receptions for 92 yards, and Hunter Renfrow had 7 receptions for 49 yards and 1 touchdown. But this Giants team, they battled. And they battled in a big way. Daniel Jones wasn't very big or impactful, yet he did enough to win, and he finished the game with 15 for 20, 410 yards and 1 touchdown. He lost the fumble too, but again, hey, a win is a win. That's what it comes down to. This game is about wins and losses. Who's going to make the most plays. Devontae Booker gave them the Giants a good day running, and some tough yards. Good yards after contact. It just really. It was really, really good. 21 carries for 99 yards. And he just continues to get better and better each day on the ground. Now, Daniel Jones did have one, a touchdown pass, and that was to Evan Ingram. And the Giants defense stepped up in a big way, forcing 3 turnovers, 2 interceptions by Xavier McKinney, one in which he returned for a touchdown, and a big strip sack by Quincy Roche that sealed the game in the Giants' victory, 23-16. All right, our next stop, to Lincoln Financial Field, where the Eagles host the LA Chargers. Now, Justin Herbert was looking to get back on track. You know, and as you guys recall, Justin Herbert was on a tear for three, 4 games where he just looked amazing. You know, but he wanted to get back on track, and he did. 32 for 38 for 356 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he also had 1 rushing touchdown. He looked very good in the pocket, and you could tell he was ready in his preparation. That week was evident in how he went out there on the field, and he looked extremely comfortable. Austin Eckler didn't have a big game, but he had a decent game, 17 carries for 59 yards. Now, Keenan Allen actually had a big game receiving, 12 receptions for 104 yards. And, you know, going against being a player that actually went against Keenan Allen, this is one of the best route runners in the game today. Steven Anderson and Donald Parham also had receiving touchdowns. And you got to feel for this Eagles team. You got to feel for this Eagles team. I mean, this team isn't bad. They're just young. Jalen Hurts, you know, he had some okay numbers. Weren't big for it, but his team, but it was okay. 11 for 17 for 162 yards and 1 touchdown. 10 carries for 62 yards. And the Eagles got great ground production as a team, rushing for 176 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jordan Howard led the way with 17 carries for 70 yards and 1 touchdown. Boston Scott, 10 for 40. And Kenneth Gainwell also had a rushing touchdown. Now, this day was about Devontae Smith, though. The former Heisman Trophy winner had 5 receptions for 116 yards and 1 touchdown. And I feel he's going to be a good receiver in this league. He's just got to continue to really work on his craft. You know what? Work on learning the nuances of the game, because the NFL game is a lot different than the college game. But he has the potential to be a great receiver if he puts in the work. And with all that said, you know, the Eagles, they battled. And it was a close game, but the Chargers were able to kick a game-winning field goal with 2 seconds left on the clock to win this game, 27-24. All right, to Arrowhead Stadium. Now, this game was crazy. This game was not how I imagined it to be. The Chiefs hosted Green Bay Packers. Now, there were a couple things, you know, that this game missed this luster. You know, the Packers were without Aaron Rodgers, who tested positive for COVID. So Jordan Love was, you know, the commander under the commanding offense. Now, this game, again, wasn't what I expected. Jordan Love was up and down. You know, to be honest, 1934 for 190 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Both Aaron Jones, 12 carries for 53 yards, and A.J. Dillon had 8 carries for 46 yards. Relatively quiet days. Randall Cobb was the high man for the Packers receiving, 3 receptions for 50 yards. And Alan Lazard had the only reception touchdown. Now, on the other side, we know the Chiefs have struggled. The Chiefs have struggled and haven't played like the Chiefs we're accustomed to seeing day in, day out. They have struggled with, you know what, being able to hold the ball, you know, turnovers. That has plagued them all season. And surprisingly enough, the Chiefs didn't turn the ball over. Yet Patrick Mahomes, he has not played like the MVP we're used to seeing him play as. And he wasn't really excited. 20 for 37 for 166 yards and 1 touchdown. Now, the only positive is that there was, again, no turnovers. Darrell Williams led the way on the ground, 19 carries for 70 yards. And I believe strongly that the Chiefs are going to be relying heavily on establishing a type of run game so that can open up the pass for them, because teams have figured them out. They're not going to allow the Chiefs to really have those big plays down the field. So the Chiefs is going to be imperative for them to establish some type of running game to force a team to bring that 8th man down into the box, so it'll open up potential, you know, deep shots, you know, and open the passing game back up. But Travis Kelce, he had a decent game, 5 receptions for 68 yards and 1 touchdown. But again, even though it was an ugly win, the Chiefs got a win, and they needed it in that win to stay in the hunt for the playoffs, 13-7. All right, we're going to go ahead and slide over to Levi Stadium, where the 49ers are hosting NFC division rivals, the Arizona Cardinals. Now, Colt McCoy got the start in place of injured Kyler Murray, and Colt was able to get the Cards back on track after they suffered their first loss of the season. He finished the game 22 for 26 for 249 yards and 1 touchdown. The Cardinals came into this game wanting to establish a strong running game and to get it going. Now, James Conner had a great day, you know, 21 carries for 96 yards, 2 touchdowns. And Eno Benjamin had a good showing as well, 9 carries for 39 yards and 1 touchdown. Christian Kirk led the way for the Cardinals receivers, and they played without all-pro wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins. But he finished the game 6 receptions, 91 yards. And James Conner had a big 5 receptions, 77 yards, 1 touchdown. So, you know what? James Conner had a big game, a big day. He accounted for 3 touchdowns and just really had some great production. The Cardinals defense was able to show up too, big, forcing 3 turnovers, 1 interception, and 2 fumbles, and getting 5 sacks. Now, Jimmy Garoppolo, he wasn't really bad. 28 for 40 for 326 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. But the one thing that plagued the 49ers is they're a zone running team. The 49ers like to, establish their run. And they had, when you think of Kyle Shanahan again, when you think of that last name Shanahan, you think of running the ball and that zone running scheme. But they didn't really have much of a running game, seeing as they would have to play catch up from the opening quarter. Essentially, they became a one-dimensional team, having to throw the ball. George Kittle led the way with 6 receptions for 101 yards and 1 touchdown. And Brandon Ayuk had a solid showing too, 6 receptions for 89 yards and 1 touchdown as well. But it was the turnovers that hurt the 49ers, and they hurt the team big time. And the Cards, even without 2 of their stars and leaders on offense, they were able to dominate the 49ers 31-17. All right. Now, this was the game of the evening. This was the game that we were waiting to see. Sunday Night Football, where we're going to head to SoFi Stadium, where the LA Rams host the Tennessee Titans. Now, this is a great matchup between 2 teams that are playing some very good football. Very good football. Now, the Titans come into this game without Derrick Henry, who's done for the season with a foot injury. But that didn't stop the Titans from playing a solid game. Ryan Tannehill didn't have big eye-popping numbers, but you know what? He did what he had to do. 19 for 27 for 143 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. And he also rushed it for a touchdown. The Titans couldn't really establish anything on the ground, but newly signed running back Adrian Peterson did score a rushing touchdown in his first game with the team. A.J. Brown had a quiet night, 5 receptions for 43 yards, and Jeff Swain had a receiving touchdown. The Titans defense played a great game, though, on the other hand, recording 5 sacks and getting 2 interceptions. 1 was returned for a touchdown by Kevin Byard. Now, the Rams started off this game really, really bad and really flat and couldn't find his rhythm on offense. Matthew Stafford was harassed in the pocket and wasn't really sharp in the early going. He finished the game 31 for 48 for 294 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Darrell Henderson led the way on the ground with 11 carries for 55 yards. Now, those are solid numbers you got some solid numbers from the receivers. Robert Woods, 7 receptions for 98 yards, and Cooper Kupp, who had 11 receptions for 95 yards. But the Rams couldn't really get back on track offensively to catch up with the Titans, who erupted for 21 points in the second quarter. And because of that, they fall to the Titans 28-16. Man, but it was a great game. Now, my final thoughts. Week 9, halfway through the season. Again, going forward, you're going to see teams really want to separate themselves from the pack. The games going forward are all about positioning. Teams that are really battling and just really trying to really get that playoff position and get ready. But great competition nonetheless. Guys continuing to get better and better. And again, each week you never know what you're going to get. So it's imperative for guys to not look past an opponent or to not take an opponent serious. Because again, like Jacksonville Jaguars stunned the Buffalo Bills. You got to take every opponent serious. You got to respect your opponent. You got to prepare. You got to go out there and execute. So again, this is not something that's new to guys. Anything can happen on any given Sunday. So you got to go out there with the mindset of executing, winning, and just playing quality football, one play at a time. So again, thank you guys for your time. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. And again, until we meet again, this is The Breakdown. X's and O's with Nate Ness. You guys have a beautiful and blessed day, and thank you.